What's going on, guys? My name is Zach, or the AustereWizard, and for the past couple of days I've been in a ranting mood. Have a few rants building up. Most of them I'll share more into the summer, probably after school gets out. But this one I'm going to share with you now. It's kind of about like education and students in general. I have a few things I want to share with you. But before I get into that, playing some Magma Domination with my man Jimbo Slice, pulling out the AustereWizard class setup with the Diamond DSR. We just run show like we always do. Without further ado, let's get into the rant. Okay, so to start off this rant, I'm going to tell you a quick little story. Just a couple days ago, I was in one of my classes. We were about to take a test, right? And before the teacher came in, me and a bunch of other students were all talking like, wow, we didn't really go over much of this at all. We had reviewed a couple days and we had kind of gone over a tiny bit of the answers we were given were kind of vague. We had like 2 days of review, not even 2 days, like 1.5 days sort of. One day wasn't really review, it was like group review. I don't know about you, but group review doesn't really work. If you're a student or have been a student and you've done like group tests and things, just group work in class, it's usually just one person gets work done. Let's say it's a group of 4. 3 people do work, one person's trying to study, 3 people just talk, or all 4 people talk, and absolutely nothing gets done. So we were studying in groups in this class, and nothing was really getting done very much. I feel like I knew most of the material, but there were a few things that I just wasn't sure about. And before class, I was talking with some people, with some of my classmates, and they too realized that they had not gone over most of the stuff. It wasn't really in our notes at all. So like some of this material wasn't in our notes. There I am looking at the volcano. Jeez. But some of the stuff wasn't in our notes. So a lot of kids didn't really know about it. So when my teacher came in, I'm like, oh, sir, me and some of my classmates here, we didn't really feel like we'd gone over some of this material, yada yada yada. And I was kind of saying like, this stuff wasn't really in our notes and this, that. And I was kind of trying to explain to him. Just saying like a lot of us feel uncomfortable about some of this material. And so he replied back saying that he should have taken better notes and this and that. But a lot of kids agreed with me before class. May I remind you, before class, a lot of kids agreed with me that this stuff wasn't in our notes, and we never really went over it thoroughly. We went over one of 7 things, 1 or 5. So we never really went over many of these things. We went over one of them. We spent 2 days talking about it. That just doesn't, no, that's bad. It's never spend that much time on like one measly topic if it's going to be on a test and it's a minor part. Anyways, so I started talking to my teacher about this in front of the class right before we take the test. Like I was just expressing the thoughts of my class on behalf of them, and then I go for some backup, and all of a sudden everyone in my class turns into a fucking genius, and everyone knows all the answers. No one says anything. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I know that. Oh, we went over it. I'm like, oh boy. So that just got me annoyed. The fact that these kids wouldn't agree with me on something just because the teacher was there, and they feel like they can't say anything to someone, like I guess you could say it of an authoritative figure. But I mean, just before this teacher came in, we as a student base of the class, we had discussed that a lot of us weren't very comfortable with it. But as soon as the teacher comes in, everyone, like I said, everyone's a genius. Everyone knows what's going on. No one said a word. It made it tough for me to make my case, being seemingly the only person that was not perfectly comfortable with the material. Though I think I did fairly well on that portion of the test, because the teacher, who's a very great man, great teacher for the most part. I really like him as a person in general. But then he gave us, I think, like 5 examples just on the spot. So we had to do some quick rote memorization, which again I do not think is a very good way of teaching, because like in schools these days, they seem to just be testing you on your intelligence, and they don't test you, or they don't, excuse me. The schools these days, they don't test you on your intelligence. They don't. They just test you on how well you can memorize something and spit it right back out. So many of my classes are just take notes and write it back down on a test a few weeks later. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it's not the way you should learn. If you want your students to be passionate about this stuff, then you need to make it a more entertaining situation and make sure you cover all your bases and make your students think. And a great example of this, which kind of spurred the idea of this rant in my mind, was that kid's video, or someone recorded him going off on his teacher. I think it was from Texas. I'll link the video, or a video of it, in the description. But the kid got up and the teacher kicked him out of class because he was complaining that the teacher just keeps giving his class packets, and he doesn't think that's a way of learning that's effective. And I totally agree with him, and I back him up completely. And there are just bad teachers and good teachers, and not everyone understands how to run a classroom. Now, in this specific situation, the story I'm sharing with you, that's not the case for this teacher, not at all. Like I said, he's a great man, very nice teacher, really well liked by all the students. I don't really know one kid that doesn't like him, but it's just, there are some things in this class, I'll just say, get a little more specific, that we don't usually cover all the bases. Now, it was really funny. This made me actually laugh a little bit. I was in this teacher's class, and then it wasn't my personal class, but it was one of his classes that kind of just stopped by real quick. And he asked one of his students, another student, a question. He goes, "I don't think we really went over this." And I looked to one of my friends that was in there, and we kind of just laughed a little bit because he knows about how I proclaimed my discomfort with some of the materials on the behalf of my classmates, like I mentioned earlier. And that just shows that even in this other class, not everything seemed to be covered. But most teachers won't take blame for that. They'll kind of just put it on the students to take better notes and everything. But it's not always the student. I mean, like I said, I think I did fairly well on this test, but I mean, it's just some things that just get annoying. And what made me even more ticked off was, remember how I said that no one in the class backed me up on it? The next morning, I'm at my locker getting ready for school, right? Getting the right books for class, whatever I have first. I don't even remember what it was. So I'm getting my shit together. And one of the kids that's in my class, he actually sits next to me. He comes over and says that, I'll paraphrase it, I don't remember exactly what he said. He apologized for not backing me up. And I thought that was nice of him to apologize for that. Apology wasn't really needed, but I accepted it, and I thought that was a really nice gesture. But the reason he was apologizing wasn't because he didn't stand up. Well, how should I say it? The reason he didn't stand up, and which he explained to me, was that he had never seen a student talk to a teacher like that before. And I was like, "Boy, are you crazy?" I was like, "What you talking about, Willis?" I mean, I feel like some of these kids I go to school with, they just know that the teacher teaches you, and then you're supposed to know the material, and you spit it back out, and you learn. Bing, bada, boom. You're not supposed to question. I feel like this is coming from the students. A lot of these kids I know, they don't feel like you should question the teacher and engage the teacher into more discussion. And if you are confused about something, ask the teacher about it, even if it is their teaching methods and you don't necessarily agree with how they're doing things. Ask them about it, and maybe they can switch how they're teaching to more benefit you, because that's their job. A teacher's job is to educate the youth, and if you're not learning a certain way, then you can try and switch classes, get a different teacher, someone that fits you more, or you can even just talk to the teacher about it and see what they can do, and don't disrespect your teachers, but talk about it in an adult manner, especially in high school. You don't want to be treated like a kid anymore, so you can't act like a kid. You can't just push your concerns aside. But it just really bugged me that the fact that he said, "I've never seen a student talk to a teacher like that." That just bugs me. That bewilders me. How do you always go through just accepting whatever someone above you tells you to do? What if a leader of something says "Oh, go kill a bunch of puppies," and you just do it? "Oh, He says so. He's in charge of us at this time. I mean, why would I question him on that? What? I'm not saying always, or like, I'm not saying don't trust your authorities and just fuck the police. Don't always have that mentality, but sometimes you need to question the norm and kind of go against the grain for what you think is right. But I think if you also feel passionate about something, don't just sit there and be a bystander as someone else tries to put forth the idea that you also share. Don't let them be the odd man out that's just up there proclaiming, because one person cannot take on the king of the world. One person has to team up with everyone else and gain support and gain strength to take on that one person, because one person cannot do everything. You need support. You cannot win the presidential election without voters. You have to win people over, and you have to go against it as a team. I noticed I went over the gameplay, so I'm just going to cut it off there. If you guys enjoyed this rant, please leave a like and your comments of whatever you think about this video. If you want more rants, I'll have more coming eventually. I can always rant on plenty of topics. Just ask some of my friends. But until next time, Wizard out.